Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings as we do have numerous rain warnings issued over the coming days, as we are going to see some more heavy rain for pretty much everyone, if we're being honest. The warnings do look like they are focused more across England and Wales, and I do think that's due to the amount of rain that's fallen over the past few days. It's all that heavy rain on top of the already saturated ground. We'll look at all that heavy rain in detail in the latest UKV, and once that rain clears through Friday into the weekend, it will be turning much colder with a northerly wind pushing in. As we head into the longer range into the early part of October, this unsettled pattern looks like it is going to continue. We did see in yesterday's video the risk of some potentially very stormy conditions early to middle part of next week. That's died down a little bit, which is good. It hasn't completely gone. There is still going to be low pressure pushing in, just doesn't look anywhere near as severe as it was showing in some of the runs yesterday. But one thing is cropping up into the longer term is potentially more Atlantic ridging. It could keep it unsettled, but it could turn it colder as well, with more polar air masses mixing in. So yeah, quite eventful over the next couple of weeks, and it does look like we are going to see autumn properly arriving. It's probably arrived over the last couple of days, and it is continuing to properly arrive over the coming weeks. Doesn't look like we're going to see any more summery weather in the foreseeable future, and as I keep alluding to, it becomes almost impossible beyond sort of the middle part of October for most areas. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. I just want to make everyone aware, over the next few days there won't be too many videos out, making a little bit of a hiatus over the next sort of 3 or 4 days, but I have got one video coming out on Saturday which will be highly anticipated for those winter lovers out there. It's our first winter 2024-25 look ahead. We're going to have a look at some of those ECMWF longer range charts and have a look at the polar vortex to have a look at any early indications, or whether there are any early indications of any colder weather as we head through the winter months. So do check out that video into the weekend. Very popular series over the past few years, and hoping this year it's going to be as popular again. So if we do start, as I said, on the live radar, you can see we have got heavy rain moving in over the course of Wednesday and Thursday. We're recording this 9 p.m. on Wednesday, so most people will probably be watching this on Thursday, and we're going to continue to see more heavy rain pushing in. But at the moment, heavy rain pushing in, and the only fortunate thing is it is moving through quite quickly. It's pretty windy, pretty blustery, so it is moving these showers and areas of rain through pretty quickly. You can see the big wall of rain is more dominant across France. Unfortunately, we're missing out on that. You can see, though, further northwards, we still do have some quite heavy, persistent rain. Out to the southwest, some even heavier bursts of rain around the centre of the low trying to push in, and it's this rain here that could cause some issues over the next 48 hours. As this pushes in, it could stall once again across northern England and then slowly pull away through Friday. Now, at the moment, it doesn't look like it's going to be concentrated in one single area. It will stall generally over the British Isles, but it will be moving. So not like what we saw on Monday, where it completely stalled across southern England into sort of the South Midlands. We're not going to be seeing an event like that, but again, we could see more widespread heavy rain, and that's why we've got quite a large blanket yellow warning at the moment. Do look at the temperatures this evening. You can see it isn't particularly mild, not amazingly cold yet, but it will be turning much colder over the next few days. And if we do look at the weather warnings, we've got a rain warning issued for Northern Ireland at the moment. It expires at midday tomorrow, and again, it's for heavy rain for these eastern portions, 30 to 50 millimetres quite widely, 60 to 80 millimetres. You can see it is medium likelihood, lower impacts, kind of a bog standard yellow rain warning. Shouldn't be too impactful, but there is the risk there. It's highly likely we see heavy rain, and there is a small risk that it does amount to potentially disruptive levels. Into Thursday, we then have 2 further rain warnings. We've got one across northeast England, which we've seen previously. It was issued and it's not been updated, and again it's for 80 to 100 millimetres over the highest ground, 50 to 70 in some locations, and then maybe 20 to 30 more widely. So we've looked at that, but it's this other warning widely across much of southern eastern England into South Wales that has been issued for Thursday from 5 p.m. until 10 a.m. for Friday. So mainly through the evening into the early hours of Friday, and it's because of that precipitation stalling and slowly pushing away southwards. You can see it as medium impacts, low likelihood, and again 20 to 30 millimetres of rain, in a few hours, 40 to 60 millimetres, and there's the risk of some lightning and strong gusty winds, maybe additional hazard, and that's because there's a risk of a few thunderstorms developing it. When the rain becomes quite slow moving, we got instability around, that's when we could see those storms breaking out. Again, it will be one to watch, but yeah, potentially some more considerable flooding over the next 48 hours or so. And let's head into Friday. Still just got that blanket warning. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, you can see all that rain pushing in at the moment. And it's this area of rain here through Thursday that pushes northwards and just kind of stalls. It breaks apart a little bit, but it never fully clears through Thursday, reforms as it pushes southwards. And this is where we see more heavy rain through Thursday evening. So you can see it pushes northwards, impacting Northern England, Northern Ireland. Again, why we've got those warnings there. It does degrade away a bit, reforms, re-strengthens as it pushes southwards, with potentially some embedded thunderstorms overnight into Friday, and then slowly clears to our east by Friday morning. Behind that, it's turning drier, which is good. But it's drier because it's cold, dry air coming right in from the north, so it could be very cold indeed through Friday into Saturday. Now, unfortunately, the northerly wind does look like it'll get cut off during the weekend. You can already see by Saturday evening, more of a westerly flow will push in, but for a time through the weekend, it will be drier. A few showers around for coastal areas, but mostly dry because of that very cold air. Low dew points, carries less moisture, less chance of any showers. You can see though into Sunday, especially through the afternoon into the evening, we start to see some really heavy rain pushing back in. Again, moves through relatively quickly, but again, wouldn't be surprised to see another yellow warning issued for that in some regions, as again, it will be more heavy rain. Fortunately, this is the system we were looking at yesterday that could potentially have been a more severe storm system. You can see at the moment though, yes, 50, 60 mile per hour towards coastal areas, but anywhere inland, hopefully not looking at much more than 40 or 50. So yeah, it could be pretty wild, but not a named storm at this stage, or not even close to that level. This time of year, we're looking at 70, 80 miles per hour probably for a named storm. Here, it's just about touching 70 out in the middle of the Irish Sea. We'd need to see that towards coastal areas or further inland to be seeing sort of yellow, amber warnings, and then, of course, the risk of a named storm. If you look at the max temperatures, you can see as we head through Thursday, it's going to be a mild day in the southeast, 17, 18 degrees, just to the south of that rain. In the warm sector towards the north, only 7 or 8 in that cold sector. And then into Friday, it's turning cold for all. Still maybe 12, 13 in the south. That is considerably lower than the prior days. Much colder further north. It's high single digits at best. And then potentially a bit of a frost into Saturday morning, again, all dependent on cloud amounts. And then into Saturday, starting to nudge up again as that wind direction shifts, but still feeling on the chilly side. And then Thursday, milder areas pushing in behind the weather front, but under the weather front for most of the day, it's going to be cold and wet. By Monday, could be slightly milder in the south, 16 or 17. But for most, again, it is still a relatively chilly day. Now, if you look at the longer term, you can see low pressure pushing in at the moment, turning it much more unsettled, and then eventually clearing and bringing much colder conditions through Friday into the weekend. We see a bit of high pressure through the weekend, but that is associated with that cold air, so probably won't feel particularly great at all. And then eventually we do see more low pressure pushing in. Still some high pressure around, so I wouldn't be surprised for some drier days at times, but you can see more ridging towards the North Atlantic and Greenland. In winter months, we'd be very intrigued with this. There'd be a southerly tracking jet stream, the risk of colder incursions, potentially some heavy snow. But this time of year, through the autumn, is more likely associated with slower moving low pressure systems. Yes, cold air, but nothing that's going to deliver anything too wintry, just generally a cold, wet feel all the way to 384 hours. You see the upper air temperatures are average to below average much of the period, and yet it would be pretty abysmal. And yeah, I don't even want to look at the accumulated precipitation. Look at that big block of dark blue and purple and pink, again all associated with that heavy rain and the jet stream coming straight in off the North Atlantic. Yes, amplified a bit, allowing cold air to seep in, but still giving that very unsettled pattern for Northern and Western Europe. You see the high pressure, it's towards North Africa, Southern Europe, for us under the wet, unsettled sort of air. Now, if you compare to the latest GM, it's broadly very similar. Low pressure clearing to our east, northerly flow coming in, and then just more general low pressure systems with that ridging in the Atlantic, allowing northerly winds in general to push in, but under lower pressure. So it's going to be cold and it's going to be unsettled. Blues are pushing in. And again, if we look at the temperatures, it is going to be pretty chilly indeed. This is midday, temperatures struggling into the double digits, and you can see accumulated precipitation. Widely, we're looking at 3 to 4 inches for many areas, and that's just in the next 10 days. So yeah, looks like we are truly heading into autumn. If you compare to the ECMWF, it is pretty much exactly the same. Northerly wind pushing in, bit of high pressure at times, but generally towards day 10, high pressure out into the Atlantic, pushing in a northerly flow. The only caveat to this is there's nowhere near as much low pressure around. So it'd still be cold coming around the high pressure, but if you look at the accumulated precipitation, it's a high, but it's not humongous, and I think that's because the jet stream is slightly more southerly tracked, and that means that overall we don't see as much rain widely. Still, some areas would see lots of rain here. It's more focused across England, Wales, and the Republic of Ireland, but a bit drier further north than that, under some closer to that ridging across Iceland and Greenland. But it is still a cold and relatively unsettled outlook. And then if we finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see this well reflected. Reasonably unsettled, lots of precipitation, a few dry patches like this weekend for southern areas and inland areas, where we've got that cold, dry air. But most of the time we are seeing quite a few precipitation spikes. And you can see the upper air temperatures are average at best. The majority of time are below average. And over the next couple of weeks, wouldn't be surprised to see a good few periods where it's significantly below average. And that would equate in some pretty cold 2 meter temperatures. Look at this, struggling to get towards mid-teens, more likely low teens. And again, this is London. Further northwards, further westwards, it's going to be even colder as we are closer to the sort of the origins of those polar air masses. And then finally, just comparing to the ECMWF ensembles, it is pretty much exactly the same. Don't want to talk through the same thing again, but you can see again, well below average and lots of high precipitation. And then just looking at Glasgow, for example, you can see it is well below average for the next sort of 7 to 10 days, not much above average at all, and high precipitation. And those 2 meter temperatures are going to be abysmal, hardly getting into the double digits. And for sort of early October, that is pretty poor. So yeah, not looking great. Again, those temperatures don't even factor in the feel-like temperature, which will be a good few degrees colder. It is looking like proper autumn is going to be arriving. And unfortunately, unless we see a drastic change in that longer-term outlook, I think it's safe to say summer and warm conditions for 2024 are pretty much over. Unless we saw something drastic in the middle part of October, I don't see a chance of us getting much closer to 20 degrees or anything like that again until next year. So that is a bit of unfortunate news. I'm kind of 99% sure of that now. Again, if we saw some drastic change in some of the model outputs, suddenly saw a massive warm sector, but we're not seeing that at the moment. And the further we get into October, the harder that does get. Now that I've kind of said I'm 99% sure we won't see 20 plus degrees again, we'll probably now see it. But again, we'll wait and see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.